Have you ever gone to bed with a decent blood sugar only to wake up with even higher numbers for no reason? If this sounds like you, then what I'm about to share could be the easiest and most powerful way to help your body reverse insulin resistance, not just control it. Because today, I'm going to show you exactly what you can actually eat to fix the root cause of high blood sugar using real studies, real mechanisms, and real food you can make today. And if you want a done-for-you recipe guide that puts all of this into simple meals, comment guide below and we'll send it to you for free. Before we talk food, you need to understand why your blood sugar is high. Otherwise, nothing will stick. The problem isn't sugar. It's not fruit. It's not carbs. It's something happening inside your cells. Insulin has stopped working properly. Think of insulin as a key and your muscle and liver cells as locks. When the lock is clean, the key works perfectly. Glucose flows in and your blood sugar goes down. But decades of metabolic research show that when you accumulate fat inside your liver and muscle cells, that lock gets jammed. The key stops churning. Glucose can't enter. It backs up in your bloodstream and your blood sugar rises. One of the clearest demonstrations of this comes from a controlled feeding study published in Diabetes Care. Researchers overfed people the same number of calories, but one group ate foods high in saturated fat, butter, cheese, coconut oil, while the other ate unsaturated fat. What happened? The saturated fat group accumulated significantly more liver fat, developed worse insulin resistance, and even produced more glucose overnight. Yes, the main reason for high fasting blood sugar levels. Here's the wild part. Their weight didn't change. They didn't gain fat you can see. They gained fat you can't see inside their organs. This proves something most people never hear. Carbs do not cause insulin resistance. Fat inside your cells does. Carbs simply expose the glucose metabolism problem. So if you want to fix type 2 diabetes, prediabetes, fatty liver, and stubborn fasting blood sugar, you must clear the fat out of your cells. And the most powerful way to do that is with the foods I'm about to show you. Here are the 5 core foods to reverse insulin resistance. Number 1, greens and non-starchy vegetables. Start every major meal with greens like spinach, kale, arugula, collards, bok choy, cabbage, anything leafy and dark. Why? Because greens do 2 things that directly improve your blood sugar immediately and long term. Reason number 1, greens physically slow glucose absorption. When leafy greens hit your stomach, their soluble and insoluble fibers absorb water and form a thick, gel-like mesh. Think of it like laying down a speed bump before glucose reaches your bloodstream. So instead of a fast, sharp spike, your glucose enters slowly, steadily, and predictably. This gives your insulin more time to work, and it prevents the surge that overwhelms your system when you're insulin resistant. And here's the cool part. Studies show that when greens or vegetables are eaten before higher carb foods, the post-meal glucose curve drops significantly, even in people with type 2 diabetes. This sequencing trick alone can flatten an entire meal's glucose rise. Reason number 2, greens improve insulin sensitivity over time. Leafy greens aren't just slowing down the sugar, they're actively helping your cells work better. A 2021 systematic review in Nutrients found that plant-forward dietary patterns rich in vegetables and leafy greens consistently improve insulin sensitivity, lower chronic inflammation, and reduce risk of type 2 diabetes. Why? Because greens are high in fiber, high in antioxidants, and packed with micronutrients that support mitochondrial function, all factors that help clear out the fat clog inside your cells. They're essentially anti-diabetes medicine disguised as food. How to use this in real life. Make greens the first bite of your meal. not an afterthought. Add a handful of spinach to your breakfast fruit bowl or chickpea scrambles. Start lunch with a quick side salad. Fill half your plate with steamed greens or a big raw salad. The more often you start your meals with greens, the more insulin sensitive your body becomes. Over time, this simple habit can completely transform the way you handle glucose. Number 2, legumes, beans, lentils, and chickpeas. Legumes are one of the most underrated insulin sensitizing foods on the planet, and most people have no idea how powerful they actually are. These foods do something almost no other carbohydrate source can do. They lower blood sugar during the meal and continue improving your glucose control hours later. Here's why legumes are metabolic gold. Reason number 1, they flatten your post-meal glucose curve. Multiple controlled feeding studies show that beans lower post-meal glucose and insulin compared to refined carbs and even compared to some whole grains. They digest slowly, they release glucose gradually, and they prevent the rapid surge that overwhelms insulin-resistant cells. Reason number 2, they create the second meal effect. This is where legumes become truly special. When you eat beans at lunch, your dinner glucose response improves, even if dinner doesn't include beans. Why? Because the fermentation of resistant starch and soluble fiber in legumes produces short-chain fatty acids like butyrate and propionate. These short-chain fatty acids travel to your muscle and liver cells and improve insulin signaling, making your cells more responsive for hours, sometimes up to the next day. This effect has been documented repeatedly in metabolic ward studies. Reason number 3, legumes are naturally low in fat. Most people don't realize that one of the biggest contributors to insulin resistance is fat stored inside your cells, not carbs. Because legumes are low in fat and high in fiber, they help clear out excess fat trapped in muscle and liver cells and allow glucose to flow back into cells normally. That's why traditional cultures that ate high legume diets with very little animal fat had extremely low rates of diabetes. I know what you're thinking, but beans spike me. If beans or lentils spike your glucose right now, it's important that you understand this. That's not the beans' fault. That's insulin resistance revealing itself. It's like a clogged sink. When you turn on the water, it fills up and overflows. But the real problem isn't the water. It's the drain that's blocked. As you lower your overall dietary fat and clear out intracellular fat over days and weeks, those spikes shrink dramatically. And soon, beans become one of the most stabilizing foods you can eat. The big picture, when you combine low dietary fat, high fiber, resistant starch, short-chain fatty acid production, slow glucose release, you create the perfect biological environment to reverse insulin resistance. Legumes are one of the few foods that hit all of those mechanisms at once. Add them daily in salads, soups, bowls, stews, and you'll feel the difference fast. If you want some of the delicious recipes we recommend to reverse insulin resistance and lower your blood sugar, comment guide below and we'll send it your way. Number 3, whole grains and high fiber starches. Millet, barley, brown rice, quinoa, farro, buckwheat. People fear these foods because they contain carbs, but controlled feeding trials show the opposite of what the internet tells you. In a randomized crossover trial published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition, overweight adults consuming whole grains significantly improved insulin sensitivity, measured with a gold standard clamp test, even with no weight loss. Another large prospective study found higher whole grain intake is associated with lower diabetes incidence and better metabolic markers. Why? Whole grains digest slowly, contain tons of fiber, and are naturally low in fat. As long as they're not drowned in oil or butter, whole grains are one of the strongest tools you have. Number 4, starchy vegetables and clean carb roots. Sweet potatoes, butternut squash, beets, corn. These are the cleanest carbohydrates on the planet, but they're also the most misunderstood. When you're living with insulin resistance, these foods might look like the problem. You eat a potato, your glucose rises, and you think, carbs are the issue. But here's the truth. Starchy vegetables aren't causing the spike. They're exposing the underlying problem. Let's break it down. Here's why starchy vegetables are metabolically powerful. Reason number one, they're high in water and fiber and naturally low in fat. This matters because fat is the nutrient that blocks insulin signaling, not carbs. Starchy vegetables give you clean burning glucose without adding the fat that clogs muscle and liver cells. A medium sweet potato is roughly 77% water, 4 grams of fiber, virtually no fat. That makes it the opposite of what drives insulin resistance. Reason number two, they come packaged with vitamins, minerals, and antioxidants that improve insulin action. Sweet potatoes contain beta-carotene, which has been shown to reduce oxidative stress, a process that worsens insulin resistance. Beets contain nitrates that improve blood flow, enhancing insulin delivery to cells. Butternut squash is rich in carotenoids associated with better glucose metabolism. They aren't empty carbs. They're nutrient-dense, low-fat, whole foods that support metabolic healing. Reason number three, populations that eat these foods traditionally have some of the lowest diabetes rates ever recorded. Think about the Okinawans, one of the longest lived populations on Earth. Their diet was almost 70% sweet potato before westernization. Type 2 diabetes was virtually non-existent. Or rural Bolivian populations, whose diet is largely potatoes, plantains, and corn. And they have some of the lowest rates of metabolic disease documented in modern research. These aren't coincidences. They're metabolic patterns based on their diets. Again, but potatoes spike me. This is the same principle we talked about with beans. If starchy vegetables spike your glucose today, it doesn't mean they're bad. It means your cells are currently insulin resistant. The sink is clogged. The potato didn't create the problem. It revealed the problem. And here's the best part. As you lower your saturated fat intake and your cells begin clearing the internal fat, these same starchy vegetables start giving you stable glucose curves, long-lasting energy, fast recovery to baseline, and improved insulin sensitivity over time. People inside the Mastering Diabetes coaching program experience this over and over again. A food that once spiked them becomes one of the most stabilizing foods that they eat once the fat clog is gone. Reason number four, starchy vegetables help you feel full for a long time and keep your weight steady. These foods have a low calorie density, meaning you can eat a satisfying volume without overwhelming your system. Compare 1 cup of boiled potatoes, approximately 130 calories, to 1 tablespoon of oil, approximately 120 calories. One fills your stomach and stabilizes glucose. The other floods your bloodstream with fat and worsens insulin resistance. This is why clean, whole food starches keep people full while helping reverse insulin resistance. Bottom line, starchy vegetables aren't the enemy. They're the fuel your body was designed to run on once the fat clog is gone. When you lower saturated fat, increase fiber, and start rebuilding insulin sensitivity, these foods switch from being spiky to being predictable, steady, and healing. Carbs don't cause the spikes. Fat makes the spikes worse. Eat clean carbs, not high-fat carbs, and your numbers start to turn around. All right, I took a little detour there because I'm very passionate about helping people understand that whole carbohydrates are not the problem behind their elevated blood sugar levels. So here's food number 5 to reverse insulin resistance. Fruit, your metabolic ally. Fruit is one of the most misunderstood foods for people living with diabetes. And if you've ever wondered, can I eat fruit and still lower my blood sugar? The answer from real clinical research is yes. Most people fear fruit because it contains sugar, but the sugar isn't the problem. The dietary context is. When eaten in a low-fat, whole food diet, fruit actually improves metabolic health. Let's look at the data. Study number 1. Fruit intake reduces diabetes risk. A large British medical journal analysis following over 180,000 people found that eating whole fruits, especially blueberries, apples, and grapes, significantly reduced the risk of type 2 diabetes. More fruit, lower risk, not the other way around. So the idea that fruit causes diabetes has never been supported in large human populations. Study number 2. Restricting fruit does not improve blood sugar. Now, here's the part most people never hear. A randomized controlled trial published in Nutrition Journal tested whether reducing fruit would help people newly diagnosed with type 2 diabetes improve blood sugar control. Participants were assigned to one of two groups: the low fruit group, no more than 2 pieces a day, or a high fruit group, at least 2 pieces a day. After 12 weeks, researchers found no difference in A1C, no difference in fasting glucose, no difference in weight loss. In other words, restricting fruit did nothing to improve blood sugar. This study is extremely important because it directly tested the fear so many people have and proved that the fear is unfounded. If fruit were a problem, the low fruit group should have improved more, but they didn't. So here's why fruit actually helps when fat is low. Fruit isn't just sugar. It's packaged with fiber, which slows glucose absorption, water, which reduces calorie density, vitamin C and antioxidants, which lower inflammation, phytonutrients, which improve insulin signaling, no saturated fat, doesn't add to the fat clog inside your cells. So if fruit spikes you right now, that's not because fruit is harmful. It's a sign that your cells are currently insulin resistant. As you lower saturated fat, remove oils, and increase fiber, your cells begin clearing out intracellular fat, and fruit becomes one of the most stable, predictable, and glucose-friendly foods you can eat. Bottom line, fruit is not the enemy. Fruit restriction does not improve blood sugar, but fruit inside a low-fat lifestyle becomes a metabolic advantage. So here's the big picture. This isn't guesswork. A 2021 review in Advances in Nutrition showed plant-based diets heavy in fruits, vegetables, whole grains, and legumes significantly reduce diabetes risk, reverse insulin resistance, lower A1C, and improve inflammation. The mechanisms are crystal clear. Lower saturated fat, less fat clogging cells. More fiber, improved insulin sensitivity. Better gut microbiome, more short-chain fatty acids. Lower inflammation, better insulin signaling. Healthier liver, lower fasting glucose. Cleaner carbohydrate metabolism, more stable energy. When you combine low fat, high fiber, whole plants consistently, your fasting glucose drops, your post-meal numbers flatten, and insulin sensitivity rises, often in a matter of days. How to put it into practice: a real day of eating. Here's what a real everyday reverse diabetes day looks like. Breakfast: quinoa, banana, berries, cinnamon, and ground flax. Lunch: big spinach or arugula salad with chickpeas, millet or brown rice, mixed vegetables, lemon, and a vinegar-based dressing with no oil. Snack: apple and some oranges or a few clementines. Dinner: baked sweet potato, steamed greens, black beans or lentils, and roasted veggies. Dessert: fruit, mangoes, berries, or a fruit salad. This day gives you tons of fiber, insulin sensitizing, almost no saturated fat, prevents cellular clogging, whole carbs, clean fuel, vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, stable energy, stable glucose. This is the pattern that improves fasting glucose, insulin sensitivity, liver fat, inflammation, and A1C all at the same time. If you want a free meal guide with lots of recipes designed exactly like this, comment guide below and we'll send it to you. If this video helped you, hit the like button, subscribe to our channel, and share it with someone who's ready to improve their blood sugar. Until next time, keep those carbs high and that A1C low.